Hi everybody, welcome to the Garage, the Court of Public Opinion. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton is behind the camera with his cup of tea in the Nova cup.
Yep.
I don't know how or why I kept that, but you know, it's a relic of my last days at 5AA, I think. Welcome to the show. The Royal Tour, I think, has been a triumph so far. A few pathetic demonstrators. I don't know what King Charles makes of the welcome to country and the Aboriginal flags and all that sort of stuff. But there's been a lot of love and a lot of respect and a lot of history that I have seen since he landed. He's too much of a gentleman to probably say what he actually thinks about things like Senator Lydia Thorpe. Oh my God. Pete, did you see any of that?
No, I didn't. I heard about it, but...
You'll see it. Such disrespect. Somebody, a senator, stands up in Parliament screaming profanities and things like, "We want a treaty, we want a treaty." Well, stuff you, lady. Frankly, you're a rude, nasty woman. You want a treaty. Why? Your people lost their country. How many times have I gone over this? If you cannot control your borders, you will lose your country. Back in 1788, you lost your country. You cannot steal it back. You cannot annoy people into giving it to you back. Crazy woman, frankly. Anyway, she's going to stay there, of course, till the bitter end. I don't believe she will ever get re-elected. Talking about elections, Labor has secured another term of government in the ACT, which is, you know, it's a public service town, an amazing 27 years in power. It's a Labor town. It is totally different to every other jurisdiction in Australia. Absolutely out of touch with the rest of the country, as evidenced in the fact that it was the only yes vote in the voice referendum. Out of touch, but sadly in control. I mean, how absurd is that? Anyway, we'll watch it and keep talking about it. Victorian bankruptcy is up 56%. Thank you, Chairman Dan and Jacinta. Up 56% on the same time last year. It's a sad landscape, Victoria. Very sad. It seems, I don't know what to make of this, it seems Australians have lost the will, or the desire, the willingness to queue up. You know, to line up, to wait in an orderly fashion for one's turn, if you like. Whether it's impatience or not, I don't know. And something else, the once great national tray of volunteering is under threat. Surf Life Saving, Country Fire Service, Meals on Wheels, dozens of vital organisations, the Red Cross, people upon whom we depend, are for the first time in ages having to go out there and campaign to recruit new volunteers. And they're not finding it easy. Don't know what's behind that, but we might talk about that on Friday around the dining room table when we get together with interesting people like Professor Plimer. Paul Macon's going to drop by. Yeah, we'll have a good show on Friday. Unemployment steady at 4.1%. 64,000 jobs, that's new jobs, created in the month. 64,000 new jobs created in the month. No pressure on the RBA to cut the rates at that rate. Nope. Inflation figures out before the next meeting of the bank, which will tell the bank a little bit more. Their judgment will be on interest rates, well informed by those inflation figures, I would think. COP31. Don't know. Do you know anything about these COP things, Pete?
No.
Oh, they roam around the world. It's a kind of a travelling circus. COP31. 40,000 visitors. They're here. They will be here to decarbonise the planet while flying in on private jets. What planet are these people on? It's kind of like they're on a planet where they have no carbon footprint. They are totally above the entire business of carbon footprints. It's sort of like China and India. What a joke. They are what? I don't know, in a different atmosphere, different world. And we accept this nonsense. Worse still, it is promoted by this government. I mean, they know it's horse manure. $600 million to set up a rugby league club, ladies and gentlemen. Why the heck would we be interested in Papua New Guinea playing football? $600 million, ladies and gentlemen. Supposedly it's something about the fact that if we don't do it, the Chinese will. We have to look after Papua New Guinea. Well, we have for years. I've spoken to you about this before, many times. It's up again. Papua New Guinea is a backward, primitive country, corrupt, and the largest recipient of Australian aid in the world. We should just absorb them into the Australian community and be done with it. There's no point in trying to pretend they're independent. They were never independent. They never will be independent. If you can't feed yourself, you can't be regarded as independent. You know, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of firsts come out of Silicon Valley. And I'm sure, well, I was going to say some of them are good. No, a lot of them are good. A lot of them are good. Very intelligent neck of the woods. But this is different. Don't know what you make of this. You might like to call up on Friday and tell me what you think. Those with $50,000 to spare can aspire to having a super intelligent child. Now, there's a startup. It's a new startup. People are talking about it, offering people on IVF the opportunity to select the intelligence of their baby. With IVF, you can choose the embryo which will be fertilized and implanted. Playing God? Yes? Maybe? No. Yes. But it's not illegal in any way. People are recognizing that if you can give your child such a significant head start in life, why wouldn't you? I don't know. Over to you. What do you think? Talk to me on Friday about that. Small business insolvencies. I touched on it before with Victoria, where bankruptcies are up 56% in just 12 months. But small business, this is the engine room of the economy. It's the engine room of employment. Insolvencies in small business are at record levels. Nearly 3,000 for the quarter. 11,000 small business insolvencies for the year. 22,000 since the Albanese government came to power. 22,000. You think of the heartbreak and suffering and deprivation that's involved in that statistic. Another 5 builders have gone bust in the last week. This is the second worst government for small business in Australia ever. Do you know what the number one was? Statistically, it was the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd government. The third worst was the second incarnation of the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd government. What does it tell you? What does it tell you? Again, we are confronted with African gangs in Adelaide, and not just Adelaide, but Melbourne particularly, not so much Sydney and Brisbane. African gangs running, rampaging, knives, machetes. What are they doing here? Certainly not being grateful for a new start in life. Melbourne's worse than Adelaide. But who let these marauding criminals into our country in the first place? And more importantly, what is the government going to do about it? It's kind of held in static disbelief, maybe. You know, how do you give people an opportunity and have that kind of thank you? We have to reconsider who comes to this country. We have to, for our own sake. Now, you mightn't like this. I don't think I even understand it. But Chinese and Korean cars have the capacity to spy on you. Have you heard about this, Pete?
Yeah, briefly I have, yes.
I don't know quite what the point is. I don't know what information they'd be gathering. Why is the information that your car can steal from you and your household, why is that useful? Who cares? I without being paranoid, and just because you're paranoid, it doesn't mean that they're not out to get you. But for years I've thought that the fridge was spying on me. But I don't know. China is responsible for 28% of global manufacturing. 28%. That's thanks to their sensible decision to invest in Australian coal and cheap energy. The US, about 17%, but a fair way behind China. 17% American. They are banning all Chinese cars. Well, when I say they're banning them, first they imposed a 100% tariff, and then came this spy thing. A 100% tariff will hurt, but to name Chinese cars, particularly the electric cars, and any American car that's made in China as a spy is truly extraordinary. Landbridge, speaking of China, Landbridge, the Chinese owner of Darwin Harbour, they've signed a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with a large Chinese port, kind of like a sister city thing, I suppose, the implications of which I do not know. But what the hell should we do? Land Bridge they own the port of Darwin. I'm not sure who it is that owns the port of Newcastle, but that is another Chinese company. You cannot have a purchaser without a willing seller. And we have plenty of willing sellers around this country. Fatima Payman, you know, the ex-Labor senator, now a force within her own voice. Her new party, her new political party, Australia's Voice, she calls it. Australia's Voice. I can't imagine why there would ever be an Australia where women would be coerced into having to cover their hair. What is it that people see in hair that is temptation or salacious or sexual? Or I don't understand that, except to say that it strikes me that it is very ignorant, steeped in possibly religious superstition or tradition or something like that. But Australia's Voice, sweetheart, would never cover its head. Never. I say without fear of contradiction. She is a Labor senator. She quit the Labor Party to start her own party because she was more involved in the business of Middle Eastern politics. And within the Labor Party, there's no dissent. You can't disagree. It's their way or the highway. So she took her way. Well, good for you, sweetheart. I cannot see you winning your seat again, but in all honesty, for integrity's sake, you should resign the Senate and stand in your own right and put your new party's name up at the coming federal election and just see how successful you are. I dare you to do it, but you won't, because people won't risk a $270,000 a year salary with perks, which she will have until, golly, 2028, I think. She's not stupid. She's not stupid. We are. That's the problem. Anyway, for Tuesday, I'll wrap it up and I'll leave you with a word about my dear friends at Elder Fine Art, one of our sponsors. Important Australian and international paintings. There is another auction coming up. So if you have any interest at all in discovering the value of a painting that might be on your wall, and maybe it's been hanging there for a generation, I don't know, but Jim Elder can tell you what it's really worth, and it might surprise you, because if you have a painting and you like it, doesn't really matter what it's worth. But sometimes you can have something of substantial value which might cause you to say, this is a bit too much to have hanging on my wall. I think I could do more with the money. This is where you should give Jim Elder a call and say, come and have a look at this painting and give me a free appraisal. He will do that. I'll give you his phone number. It's 8267, this is the Adelaide number, 08 if you're out of town, 8267 2868. And there is a Jim Elder auction upcoming fairly soon, and tomorrow I'll tell you about our other sponsor, the wonderful Rising Sun Inn at 60 Bridge Street at Kensington. Beautiful. The #1 pub in South Australia. Happy birthday. If you're having a birthday today, October the 22nd, Thomas Edison perfects carbonized cotton filament light bulbs. So I guess the carbonized cotton filament was the thing that lit up. 1879 was the year.
Amazing story though. Apparently, I don't know the number, but he had so many failures.
Oh yes, yes, he had lots of failures. Every inventor in the world has failures.
He had a huge amount of failures, but he kept going. He believed it
Yes,
would work.
yes, yes, yes.
And he never gave up.
No, and a light which is very similar to this, with a carbonized cotton filament, hangs to this day in a fire station. And you can Google it. It is the world's longest burning light bulb. It's in a fire station. It's a tourist attraction. We rang them. I was at 5DN at the time. And we rang them, and they've got somebody who comes to the telephone, talks to people all over the world about this light. They can't turn it off, because if they turn it off, it won't come back on again. But it is the oldest burning light bulb in the world, and it is an Edison. I love it. The world's first car dealer opens in London, 1897 on this day. And on the same day, 1906, Henry Ford becomes the president of the Ford Motor Company. The world's first car dealer, but it doesn't tell me here who it was. Anyway, this was the day, 1897 was the year. 1942, Annette Funicello. God, I was in love with Annette Funicello. I used to come home from school to sit down there and watch Annette Funicello. I didn't know what the fascination was at the time, but there's something going on. Something was going on. Mickey Mouse Club, oh yes. Beach Party, all those movies. The Singer, Tall Paul was one of her hits. Born in Attica, New York. She died in 2013, but born this day in 1942. Paul McCartney denies greatly exaggerating the rumours of his death on this day in 1969. 1984, Paul McCartney releases Give My Regards to Broad Street, the soundtrack, 15 years later. Joan Fontaine, the British-American Academy Award-winning actress, Gunga Din, Ivanhoe, Rebecca, born in Tokyo, Japan. She was born this day in 1917. She died in 2013. Do you know who her sister was? Her sister was Olivia de Havilland.
Oh, okay.
They didn't get on. Didn't like each other. Magnus Hoss, Swedish physician who coined the word alcoholism, was the first to define the disease. He was born in Sweden. He died in 1890. Doesn't tell me what he died of, but this was the day that he was born. 1807. The Ringling Brothers' greatest show on earth buys Barnum and Bailey Circus. 1907. Christopher Lloyd, American Emmy award-winning actor, Taxi, Reverend Jim, Back to the Future films. Oh, yes. Born in Stamford, Connecticut. Great Scott! 1938 was the year, and this was the day. Don Lane. I like Don Lane. He was a nice fellow. Don Lane, American-born Australian television personality, never made it big in America, but made it very big in Australia. And he came to Australia to stand in. He was just a fill-in for the main act, because they couldn't get here. They were tied up. There was a husband and wife act, and nobody even remembers who they were, because Don Lane came to town. He did the stand-in for, I think it was a month, and he knocked them dead, and Channel 9 said, well, we ain't going to go with the first choice, we'll go with the stand-in. Thank you very much. Wise decision. Wise decision. Don Lane. 2009. He was born in 1933, and he died on this day in 2009. Cicely naval disaster, shipwreck of 4 Royal Navy warships. 1,400 men were lost during a storm off the Sicily Islands. It prompted the 1714 British Act of Parliament competition to try and find longitude at sea. But the naval disaster occurred on this day in 1707. Pope John Paul II is inaugurated Pope in 1978. Curly Howard! Jerome Lester Horowitz, American vaudeville actor, The Three Stooges, born New York City in Brooklyn. He died in 52, born this day in 1903. Jeff Goldblum, American actor, The Fly, Jurassic Park, Independence Day, the jazz pianist. 1952 he was born. And the Argentine military officer and politician Juan Perón, 50, weds actress Eva Duarte. She was 26. In a civil ceremony, 1945, and the rest is kind of history. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Believe in yourself, and thank you for viewing the show. Bye for now.